It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast as we connect you, as always, to that front seat view to real estate information right across Australia. And we are here 7 days a week. You can hear us streaming on multiple platforms everywhere. How is your week going? We are getting through it. It is a Thursday morning, June the 12th. Coming up in just a moment, we're going to be talking to Nicola Powell, joining me from Domain. Also, Andrew McCann, who is the current CEO of Jallis Craig. I don't know what you think about this, but once unthinkable, forming emotional bonds with AI companions is now becoming somewhat normal. Apps like, and I haven't heard of these before, trust me, Replica and Character AI, they let users create digital friends, lovers, how does that work? Or even versions of themselves. Yes, we're talking cloning yourself. Now, millions of people are turning to AI for support, therapy, or intimacy. Is this solving loneliness or building a digital echo chamber? Having the AI agree with everything that you say? Would you go there? And you can see in the future the AI partner looking at properties that you're thinking of buying and the AI telling you of their approval or not. And that is just the world at the moment that we live in. Weird, strange, and hard to predict. Right, let's catch up again with Nicola Powell from Domain, who is the Chief of Research and Economics, because I wanted to talk, Nicola, this morning just briefly about the buyers who are being squeezed out of traditional expensive areas, shifting their focus to lower-priced homes. There's a real irony that takes place with this because, ironically, it is driving up competition and prices at the bottom end of the market. People move from high end to more of an affordability market, but as I say, unfortunately, this is what's happening. These prices, they're going up.
Yeah, and I think this is a really clear example of the dwindling pocket of affordability that we're seeing, particularly in our very high-priced cities. What this creates is what's called the ripple effect in the property market. So if you are priced out of the suburb that you are wishing to purchase in, what you start to do is you either reevaluate and you drop that extra bedroom, or you shift property type to an apartment or unit that's more affordable. Or what also happens is you get pushed further away. So you go to your suburb hop. So you start looking at the neighbouring suburb or two suburbs down. And that's what creates this ripple effect. So it means it's pushing buyers to these more affordable pockets, these areas that they're called bridesmaid suburbs. So these areas that perhaps haven't seen those strong rates of growth and don't have a high price point relative to the suburb they're originally looking in. And that creates that ripple effect. It creates stronger rates of price growth because demand is rising, but it also creates gentrification. And gentrification is that improvement of the suburb where you see that shift in demographics, you see that shift in property profile, and that in itself can also create price growth. And that's what we see in our capital cities. Our capital cities, there's many markets going on, what we call micro markets at any one time, which means there's different variety of speeds of price growth. And that gentrification and that ripple effect of being priced out of one area does push buyers to another location.
Yeah, the ripple effect that you're talking about, we've received emails from people. They've written in and they've said, look, we've been affected now where our prices have started to go up. It's unaffordable for us. Yes, admittedly, they are younger potential buyers, but what they've done is they've put their hands up in the air and they've moved offshore. Some of these emails we've received from Vietnam, from Thailand, etc., where people have just said, no, I'm not going to, handle those prices. Better for me to go and live somewhere where it's a little bit on the cheaper side.
Yeah, and look, I think if you're relocating to another country, this is where it's absolutely a shift in lifestyle. And I think, there will be a section of our population that will be reevaluating, what do they want from life? What is that work-life balance that they want? Where do they want to raise their children? If you are priced out of a housing market, you start to really reevaluate what you're wanting wanting. And it's one of those things that we see in Sydney. There has always been this drain of people away from Sydney, not necessarily to overseas, but particularly into regional New South Wales and also to southeast Queensland. And it is particularly poignant for young families, those that are in their prime working age, that have a couple of young kids, and they're leaving Sydney. And an article recently, and it was very poignant, and it was basically insinuating that Sydney could be the city with no grandchildren, meaning that for grandchildren, when they get to the age of purchasing a home, they're just not going to be able to, because it's just so far beyond their means. That is really showcasing where we have a big problem, a social problem, and inability to actually purchase. And it's shifting demographics. It's altering our population shifts. In all the time that I've been analysing Australia's housing market, I think this is the period of time where we have got government really focused on supply, we've got the housing accord. We just need to really ensure that we deliver, that 1.2 million homes over 5 years, and continue to deliver it outside of that 5 years too.
Yeah, just coming back to the ripple effect, about a week ago, it's the complete inverse if you own a property in Sydney, because we were talking to Steve and Tanya. They moved out of Sydney and they went to Port Macquarie, bought in Port Macquarie. They had a 3-bedroom property in Sydney. They didn't downgrade, they upgraded to a 5-bedroom. He was saying plenty of room. And the key thing there was he's got a whole lot of money left over in the bank account, which he said was really nice. So 2 different sides of the coin.
Yeah, wow. 2 different sides of the coin, totally. One of the core things is we've seen some extraordinary rates of growth in some of our smaller capital cities as well, or our mid-tier capital cities, I should say. So it has been, locations like Perth, Adelaide, that have seen very strong rates of growth over the last, 5 years. And what that does change is your household financial position. And what that means is, particularly if you're selling up and moving to a more affordable location, it's like a lottery win, I think. The equity growth that some people have experienced in their home prices in recent years has created a life-changing effect for them. It's challenging if you want to stay in the same location, but I think if you want to upsize and relocate and your money goes a bit further in another location, this is where you're really winning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just before I let you go, I wanted to pick your brain over this, because some of these economists are saying that the rapid home value growth seen over the last 10 years is unlikely to be repeated. And I would love to know your thoughts about that, because I'm not so sure that we can definitively say that it won't be repeated. They say unlikely.
We have seen some extraordinary rates of growth in recent, particularly in that 5-year period when we think back over the pandemic period and the continued growth that some of our cities have seen. We've got to consider that Adelaide hasn't even had a downturn in a 5-year period or over a 5-year period. What we're likely to see, particularly in this growth cycle, is the rate of price growth is going to be held back by affordability, because what we've got is such a mismatch between wage growth and the growth in house prices. And that gap has been growing over time. There is a wide gap between where home prices are and the capacity for buyers to pay for a home. That concept in itself will help to taper how far prices actually rise.
All right, well, we'll leave it there, Nicola. Always something to talk about. Enjoy your day. Once again, thanks for coming back on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thank you very much.
And coming up next, we are going to dive into part of a conversation that we had earlier in the year with CEO Andrew McCann. He is the CEO from Jallis Craig. It's worth a replay, and I think you'll find it pretty interesting.
It's the Real Estate Podcast, talking properties from 6 a.m. every day, from every corner of the Australian real estate market.
Now, I just want to change tack a little bit here and talk about leadership among real estate CEOs, because it does vary around the country. In fact, you've got a couple of powerful CEOs in Australia that have some very negative things said about them, and part of the disconnect there is grassroots real estate, where perhaps they simply just don't connect to grassroots real estate. Yes, you can have fantastic social media post, all smiles, handshakes, but it can create this false narrative of what is really going on behind the curtain. So how do you keep it real there, and how do you keep all those connections going as a CEO of a large brand?
It's a really good question, and I think truthfully the people that work with me would be the best ones to answer whether I'm a strong leader. But hand on heart, I have a great group of people around me, and we have a very collaborative and supportive group of business owners at Jellis Craig. So I'm very fortunate to lead the brand and that group. I'm a born and bred real estate agent, and I think having walked in the shoes of both the agents and the agency principals provides me with a level of understanding what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. And I've had great feedback around the ability to stay connected on that business level rather than trying to come in with a corporate view, changing structures that don't add value for our businesses and don't add value for our customers. And I think that's the one thing that any leader and CEO can get confused by, is that we're a customer and a people-driven business first. If we look after our customers, being our landlords, our tenants, our sellers and our buyers, and we do a great job of looking after the livelihood and the ability to work effectively of our agents, then we will win in the long run.
Yeah, a lot of people looking at coming into the industry. I said about a week or so ago that it's a great time to be coming into the industry. And one of the things I'm always interested in is the culture around looking after newbies that come into the real estate industry. Not all of them are well served by upper management, probably fair to say. You know, they can go in, they can be told, hey, you know, these are the sort of numbers that we'd expect you to do. The pressure is on from the minute they walk in the door, which is really not the way to handle it. So there's always that little fine line, isn't it, in terms of how you deal with new people coming into the industry?
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's a proper war for talent in our industry. We need more good quality people joining the real estate industry at every level, be that at management, be that in the sales arena or in the property management space. But I think the great challenge is that our industry is often misunderstood around the roles and responsibilities of what we do day to day, and we don't do a great job of educating people on how to get started and what they need to think about. But I also think that many principals, they're so busy in their day-to-day that they don't understand what it means to onboard and induct and give people an opportunity to be successful in their own right. You do need to think about the size and the scale of the organisation that you're joining and whether they have those systems to allow you time to learn and environments to learn and to learn from the best practitioners.
And you're right in terms of, you know, CEOs being so important. Now, these days, you want to keep a really good sense of balance and well-being, because not everybody can manage that. And you can get way too focused on the work, Andrew. We've all been guilty of this, and lose out that core strength to success of health and balance, which in itself can fuel professional success.
I think post-COVID in Melbourne, in Victoria, where we suffered significant lockdowns, that nothing could be truer in regards to the importance of wellness and balance. But I think the most successful people that I see in real estate are those that do have great balance. They've got good family lives. They understand it's important to exercise and look after themselves, and they know how important it is to be on when it comes to work and day-to-day practice. But as soon as you get one of those things out of balance, something tends to fall apart. So we're very aware of it. Real estate can be a fast-paced industry, but I'm actually very much of the view that people need to slow down a little bit more to speed up over the long term. We'd much rather build careers here than have people come and go because they burn out too quickly.
Let's explore together the power of real estate.
And the hotspot we're seeing in the Cairns market is sitting with houses, particularly the $550,000 to $650,000 price point is extremely competitive.
Yeah, it's interesting because with the first home buyer cohort, what they tend to do is, you know, they move into areas like a Cairns and they're after a unit. Well, that's their initial thought. But then they look at the median house price and they go, well, hang on, we can actually afford to get ourselves a house. How good is that?
Yeah, absolutely. To buy a decent unit for $400,000, and these are returning pretty significantly, 7% rental yields, great for an investor. And for a first home buyer, you can buy into the property market here for around $550,000 for a house.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.